You mentioned it, fifth season. Talk a little bit about what you've learned, and especially last season, what you take away from last season that you can apply to take things a step further here for the Komets in the 2017-2018 season.
Well, obviously you got to go back and evaluate what happened in the playoffs. That's the number one thing you want to do, and you see the trends of where the game's heading. The NHL, the American League, everything's speed, speed, speed. So, we had a quick team last year. We want to be even quicker this year. So you want to continue to evaluate speed. In our division, Toledo's always one of the fastest teams in the league, if not the fastest. Kalamazoo will return almost their whole forward group, extremely quick group of forwards there. So speed's a big thing also, same thing with the defensemen. You got to get your D involved in the play now. So, big defensemen are great, but you have to be able to skate nowadays. So those are some of the things that we wanted to address this offseason. I think we did a good job doing it.
You mentioned speed, but one word I've heard from the Frankies and also from you is depth. You feel like coming into camp, this team has a lot of depth on the roster. How does that play itself into more wins? How does that play itself into a deeper playoff run?
Well, we won 45 games last year, so it's hard to say it's going to necessarily equate into more wins. But what it is going into the playoffs. You know what I mean? Being able to going to the playoffs with the top end depth. You know what I mean? I thought some teams had a little bit more. Maybe their depth on D was a little bit greater than ours. Same thing with their forward. Maybe the third line was able to score and not just check. So we want to be able to have it all, obviously, heading into the playoffs. So with an affiliation, you want to make sure you protect yourself as well, because things all run upstream, and you don't want to be left in the dark there looking for players all the time. So, with us signing an affiliation, depth is important. You look at the forward group. Right now it's hard for you to tell because there's only 8 forwards in this room right now, but over the next day or two there's going to be another 6, 7 forwards coming in that are all very good. So it's going to be very competitive up front to make the team. On defense, we're probably going to have 9, 10 defensemen competing for 7 jobs, and obviously the goaltenders, we're getting one assigned to us from Tucson. So you take a look at the 3 goalies in here now, there's 3 goalies competing for 1 job, so the competition will be very good in all 3 departments.
You mentioned the forwards. Obviously, Komets fans, even though it's been a while, Komets fans still remember Justin Hodgman, the Game 7 goal. I mean, what does he bring to the team? It's funny because he was such a young kid when he started playing in Fort Wayne, and now he's got NHL experience. He's one of the older guys. What does he bring, and what can you get from Justin Hodgman at this point?
Well, I think the main thing is, it's exciting to see a player that's been pursuing his dreams, be able to come back into the town where his kids were born and play in front of him. He hasn't had a chance to play in front of his kids much. Hodgie's a great father, and he gets a chance to come here and get his career going. He hasn't played many games over the last couple of years, so this is a tough league. It's a grind of a league since the last time he was in there. When he was younger, he played some games in Toledo, so the league's going to look a lot different to him. We've talked about that, so it's a very challenging league. You don't want to take it for granted. So I think for him, it's just exciting to be back in town. He loves the Komet organization. He bleeds black and orange. I know he comes to the games last year when he's in town. He's been a supporter of mine, a supporter of the organization, and now it's going to be exciting for us to work together as a coach and player.
When you look at the forwards, what excites you? Because you have guys that you don't only have Hodgie, but you have Sidlowski, a team MVP guy. You have, Mason scored 18 goals last year, so you have some firepower. What excites you about this team up front specifically that makes you think, all right, we're going to get things rolling pretty quick here for the Fort Wayne Komets?
Well, I think there's a good returning group of guys that played the game the right way in the playoffs. I mean, if you look at guys like Garrett Thompson and Gabriel Desjardins, you might look at their points in the playoffs last year and think that maybe they didn't produce as much as they should, but I thought they were probably the 2 most effective players in the playoffs because they played a hard game that you need to play in the playoffs. Baps and Crunk, they come to work and practice every day. There's no complaints from them. I really wanted to surround myself with guys that just want to work. And I think as a coach, you want to get that out of guys, create a culture of that. I think your leaders have to make sure that the younger guys buy into that early on. So we're going to be looking to the older guys, your Cody Sauls, your Sean Zidlowskis, your Jamie Shasmas, your Justin Hodgmans, and setting the tone right away that, hey, listen, we're going to be a team that's going to come to work every day, hour and a half, whatever it takes. We're going to take care of our bodies off the ice, be good pros, and let's go ahead and make a run at this thing.
For people that don't understand what a big deal it is for you to have a full-time assistant coach, what does it mean to have Ben? What does he bring? Because it seems like he's kind of a a tape guy, an analytics guy. What does he bring, and how is that going to help the team, on a Friday, on a Saturday, on a Sunday?
Well, he reminds me a lot of myself when I was an assistant with Al, and that's why I gravitated to him right away, because he's really good at doing the video, and that's kind of how I got was able to make my way up the coaching ladder. And as an assistant, you're doing whatever you can for the head coach to make yourself a viable asset to the organization, and that's what he wants to do. So, video is a very tedious. It's very, very, demanding, okay, of your time. Last year, with us being logistically, good here in Fort Wayne with a lot of teams around us, when we would play 3 games in 3 nights, we're playing 3 different teams. You got to cut the film up on the team you just played, on the team you're playing the next night, and that's very hard to do. It's very difficult to do, as well as you're trying to give individual video to players to make themselves better. It's impossible to do as one guy. Olivier Legault did help pick up some slack last year. He started doing some and helped me out tremendously, so a lot of credit goes to him, and he will be around this year too, helping out. So for me as a head coach, there are no excuses. I have a great staff in place with Ben Boudreau, Olivier Legault. Management's given me the tools to be successful. We expect a good season.